breaking news today. As violent crime among teenagers rises, politicians continue to offer excuses, leaving families to bear the consequences. Why are repeat offenders merely slapped on the wrist instead of facing significant consequences? Stay with us as we uncover the policies that are jeopardizing your safety.
Hello, and welcome to That News Show, where we discuss the latest facts, fakes, and hypocrisy as reported by the legacy media. Let's roll the tape.
Fox News reports that Judge Jeanine has criticized the lenient treatment of teen criminals. She poses a critical question: when did the protection of dangerous teenagers become more important than the safety of the general public? Despite a decrease in crime in Washington from last year's highs, repeat offenders, many of whom are teenagers, continue to terrorize innocent people. This issue stems from years of policies by Democratic politicians and their allies, who argue that holding young offenders accountable is unfair, all while victims suffer and communities deteriorate. Consider the implications when a teenager can commit a carjacking at gunpoint and receive minimal consequences. This isn't compassion, it's capitulation, a direct result of policies endorsed by the previous administration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, which portrayed law enforcement as the problem and criminals as misunderstood victims. The involvement of youth in violent crimes has doubled, yet the proposed solutions lean heavily on therapy and programs, with a notable decrease in punitive measures. This approach fails to protect the family's concern for their children's safety. Judge Jeanine rightly challenges this approach, highlighting that those in power, many of whom are unelected and have a globalist perspective, seem to consider public safety negotiable. They focus on root causes and systemic injustice but ignore personal responsibility and the rights of law-abiding citizens. Their ultimate goal appears to be a society where chaos leads to increased government control, the law-abiding are disadvantaged, and criminals are indulged. It's time to reconsider listening to those who have contributed to this chaos. We must demand tangible consequences for violent crimes, regardless of the offender's age. If we desire a society where order is valued and families can prosper, we need leaders who prioritize victims over criminals. The current administration is beginning to address these issues after years of neglect. The question remains, will these efforts be enough to repair the damage, or will we continue to mistake leniency for virtue while our communities bear the cost? Let the show begin.
Probation. The judge said go to college. Okay? He took an illegal gun. He should be jailed for the illegal gun. Forget about the shooting. You put that on top of the gun. Then what we've got are kids who are out there who are making fun of all of this, doing carjackings, and I can't touch them because they want to protect them.
When a judge opts for probation and advises a young offender to attend college after being caught with an illegal firearm, it sends the wrong message. So law is unequivocal. Possessing an illegal firearm is a grave offense, and failing to impose significant consequences only promotes further reckless behavior. It's not solely about possession. Consider the associated violence, shootings, and carjackings, and it's evident we face a crisis of accountability. We're seeing a generation that views the justice system as ineffectual, emboldened by policies that favor rehabilitation over effective deterrence. This situation stems from years of progressive, Democrat-backed policies that have diluted the repercussions for dangerous behaviors. Rather than safeguarding law-abiding families, these policies overly protect offenders and restrict law enforcement's capabilities. The data is telling, despite a drop in overall crime rates in some areas, youth involvement in violent crimes has surged, with juveniles now accounting for nearly half of all carjackings in the district. This isn't coincidental. It's the direct result of a system that fails to address serious crimes with the seriousness they justify. Letting a teenager off with probation for carrying an illegal weapon doesn't help them. It sets them on a path to reoffend. The statistics are clear. Many juveniles arrested for violent crimes had previous arrests for similar offenses, indicating that our current approach is failing both the offenders and their communities. We need to refocus on accountability, swift justice, and genuine deterrence rather than offering endless second chances that further embolden repeat offenders. Under the current Republican leadership, there's a strong commitment to public safety. This includes a push for stricter enforcement, additional resources for prosecutors, and the appropriate trial of violent juveniles as adults. These policies aim to restore order, protect victims, and reinforce the principle that breaking the law carries substantial consequences. The previous administration's lenient stance on crime, supported by Democrats and their activist allies, has only rendered our streets more perilous and eroded trust in the rule of law. It's time to abandon these failed experiments and advocate for common sense. Protecting our communities and holding criminals accountable isn't just a political slogan. It's the cornerstone of a free and prosperous society.
Older kids send out the younger kids to do the real dirty work because they know they're fine.
They absolutely understand. And youth violence is on the rise, not just in D.C., but across the country. And if you think that these kids need to be coddled and they need to be hugged, they need to have consequences, they need to understand that enough is enough, that we're going to put them in jail or some kind of youth rehabilitation detention facility and not allow the D.C. Council, one of whom I just recently indicted, to take cover for these kids.
The heart of the crisis lies in older teens and young adults exploiting the justice system. They recruit younger individuals to commit violent acts, well aware that the repercussions will be minimal. This isn't about confusion over the rules. It's about exploiting a justice system that has become overly lenient, particularly in places like Washington, D.C. Here, progressive lawmakers have favored restorative justice over effective deterrence. This approach has led to a noticeable increase in youth violence, not just in the capital, but nationwide. Despite some improvements in overall crime rates, the sharp rise in juvenile involvement in serious crimes like robberies, carjackings, and even homicides is alarming. In D.C., nearly half of all carjacking arrests now involve juveniles, and the rate of youth involvement in shootings and homicides has doubled in recent years. This trend is a direct consequence of policies that fail to hold young offenders accountable, championed by the same leadership that has seen public order decline. The impact is devastating. Victims and their families, along with entire communities, bear the brunt, facing over $100 billion a year in medical costs, lost productivity, and social services. More profoundly, there's an erosion of public trust and a diminished sense of safety, which every American deserves. There's a prevailing message that violent youth will receive multiple chances only perpetuates the cycle of crime and community suffering. The current administration is committed to changing this permissive environment. The newly established federal task force in D.C., supported by the White House, is focusing on accountability, empowering prosecutors and law enforcement to take decisive action. The initiative to try violent juveniles as adults in severe cases is aimed not at vengeance, but at restoring law and order and protecting the innocent. This approach contrasts sharply with the previous administration, which weakened police authority, restricted prosecutors, and promoted policies that have emboldened criminals. The consequences were more chaos, more victims, and a generation of young people manipulated by older criminals who exploited the system's flaws. To genuinely address this issue, we must move away from the failed policies of the past, no more ignoring the essential need for order and safety under the guise of addressing root causes. The evidence is clear. Jurisdictions that enforce the law and ensure swift, certain consequences see significant reductions in youth violence. Our path forward should prioritize victims, restore accountability, and rebuild the foundation of safe, thriving communities.
This city will not come out of the dark if we don't make sure that we make these young kids accountable. That's where the problem is. It's youth crime on the rise.
Well, the youth who are being brought into this family court, if they're not released and they're kept in some type of facility, what happens when they're 21?
Accountability for young offenders is crucial, not just a slogan. It's essential for restoring order in our city. When these youths are processed through family court and released back onto the streets, the message is clear. Consequences are minimal, and the system can be manipulated. The looming question of their future post-age 21 isn't imagined, it's a stark warning. Too often, they exit the system with minimal rehabilitation and insufficient deterrence, returning to the community with an even greater sense of impunity. The data exposes a troubling trend. Although youth incarceration has dropped by 75% since the turn of the century, violent offenses among youths have increased, and recidivism remains high. Nearly one-third of adjudicated youth cases result in out-of-home placements, yet the majority receive probation, and only a few face adult court for serious crimes. This lenient approach favored by previous administrations has failed to curb the activities of a small but persistent group of repeat offenders who continue to disrupt struggling neighborhoods. The current administration is making strides by prioritizing accountability, supporting law enforcement, and insisting on meaningful interventions. Crime rates are beginning to improve, but the increase in youth violence is a direct result of past leniency. The establishment of a new federal task force, supported by the White House, marks a significant advancement. It brings necessary resources and coordination to address the issue, and its stance on prosecuting violent juveniles as adults, when appropriate, signals an end to the era of endless second chances for dangerous offenders. Fox News has played a critical role in highlighting the shortcomings of soft-on-crime policies and giving a voice to victims and law enforcement. Their coverage, featuring interesting interviews and on-the-ground footage, underscores the urgency of the crisis. Their reporting could benefit from less sensationalism and more context regarding long-term trends and policy debates, including more independent crime data and balanced panels with local law enforcement and community leaders would enhance their credibility and provide a more complete view. Fox News excels in visual storytelling, using maps, charts, and first-hand accounts to illustrate the extent of the problem. There is potential to expand their investigative segments to track individual cases through the justice system, identifying breakdowns and successful reforms. Incorporating more expert analysis from prosecutors and criminologists would deepen viewers' understanding of the issues and potential solutions. The city cannot afford to let another generation fall through the cracks. The way forward involves empowering prosecutors, supporting law enforcement, and holding young offenders accountable for serious crimes. This is the only way to ensure real safety and stability in our streets.
My cases, I have all crimes across the board. I get illegal gun convictions. Some of the judges won't send them to jail.
So they're carrying guns that are not licensed.
Everybody's got a gun in this city, and they're all illegal. You would think that every judge would say, lock them up, and that's my policy. You get arrested with an illegal gun, you're locked up.
What we are witnessing is not merely a public safety crisis, it's also an economic one, affecting every working family and business owner in our city. The financial repercussions are profound when illegal gun offenders are not incarcerated. Taxpayers and local businesses bear the brunt as insurance premiums increase, retail theft escalates prices, and property values in impacted areas stagnate or fall. For small businesses, the threat of gun violence translates into higher security costs and lost revenue, as customers steer clear of areas perceived as unsafe. The ripple effect is clear. When judges opt not to impose jail time for illegal gun convictions, the economic burden shifts to responsible citizens and job creators. Consider the broader economic impact. Nationally, violent crime drains hundreds of billions of dollars annually from the American economy through medical expenses, lost productivity, and increased law enforcement spending. In cities plagued by rampant illegal gun possession and lax enforcement, these costs multiply. Such neighborhoods see dwindling investment, disappearing jobs, and relocating families, perpetuating a cycle that stifles opportunity and erodes the city's tax base, which is vital for funding schools, infrastructure, and essential services. Despite reports of declines in overall violent crime and homicides, we cannot afford complacency. A single shooting or carjacking can wreak havoc on a family's finances and destabilize entire communities. Although the data indicates progress, the persistent underlying threat exposes systemic failures in holding offenders accountable. With many illegal gun cases resulting in minimal consequences, the message to potential criminals is that the risks are minimal compared to the potential rewards. The contrast in policy approaches is stark. The current administration is committed to real accountability, incarcerating those with illegal guns and halting the ineffective catch and release policies. This approach isn't just about enforcing a law, it's about restoring economic confidence and safeguarding the livelihoods of law-abiding citizens. Conversely, the previous administration's lenient stance on crime, supported by some Democratic leaders and their activist allies, compromised both our safety and economic stability. Their policies place the rights of offenders above the well-being and prosperity of hardworking Americans, with clearly harmful results. Every parent concerned about their child's safety on the way to school, every shop owner battling theft, and every homeowner watching their property value decline understands that public safety is crucial for economic security. When courts fail to incarcerate illegal gun offenders, the cost is measured not just in dollars, but in lost opportunities and peace of mind. The way forward is to prioritize accountability, enforce the law rigorously, and send a clear message. Our city will no longer tolerate lawlessness at the expense of its citizens' futures. As always, it's interesting to hear how they like to spin this. Here's the reality: rewarding criminal behavior only leads to more of the same. The previous administration's lenient policies and constant excuses overlooked the victims and prioritized offenders' rights over public safety. This isn't compassion, it's chaos. Fortunately, President Trump's administration is restoring order by standing up for law-abiding citizens instead of coddling criminals. We face a simple question: do we want a country where rules are respected, or one where excuses are important? The choice is ours, and history is certainly taking note. Be sure to comment below. Give a like and subscribe. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned for the next one.